Welcome to the Year of the Movie podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies from the year of the movie, 2023. We started this podcast because 2023, oh so long ago, was a weird and goofy year for movies.
Mm-hmm.
You had 80 for Brady, 65, Strays, Oppenheimer,
Barbie, etc.,
Gran Turismo, everyone's favorite race car movie.
and no other race car movie.
There were strikes.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood was kind of shut down. It
Yeah.
was a weird time, and
Mhm.
because of that, we got some interesting and weird movies.
Yeah.
If you like this podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon, reviewing and rating on wherever you listen to your podcasts, following us on Instagram, and subscribing to us on YouTube.
Yeah.
What movie are we talking about today?
We're talking about BlackBerry. The synopsis is the story of the meteoric rise and catastrophic demise of the world's first smartphone. What were your first impressions when you heard about this movie?
I think the first time I heard about it was the poster. So I was sort of like, okay. But the first poster they released was Glenn Howerton
Bald.
bald.
Yeah.
And I was like, interesting. So I would say I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
What was your first reaction?
I was kind of like, okay, there's another one.
Yeah.
Just because there's the trend that we've talked about of like I forget how they phrased it in like the Beanie Bubble episode that we did a little while ago of like the corporate biopic or product biopic.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have high expectations, but it felt like, at least because I think I also heard about it first when the poster came out, or you talked about it or something. Then, at least from the initial images that I saw, it seemed like this might be more in like the vein of The Social Network, which I guess is kind of also a product or corporate
Yeah.
biopic. Jobs. I mean,
Yep.
because it's the tech industry and stuff, but those are the associations that I first made. So it took us a while to get to it, and I feel like we heard good things
Yeah.
from multiple people before watching it. So
Yeah.
the trailer for this movie is pretty good. Gives you pretty condensed rundown of like what happens. It's good at setting the tone. There's a lot of like rock music playing throughout. It's pretty fast-paced editing. It establishes the dynamic between the like two main people that we'll be following, of like the guy who does the tech side, who's a little bit of a pushover, and then the guy who does the business side, who is
Bit of a screw over.
a meanie. Yeah. Yeah, and it highlights some of the key moments that we'll see with like the company's start and then their end. They mention Apple and stuff. It also shows the tone, and that it's a comedy. And then it's intercut with a lot of like positive review quotes from critics. I think like the last bit of the trailer is two of the engineers that they hire talking at the diner saying like, what are they paying you? He's like, I really shouldn't say. And the other guy's like, they're paying me $10 million. He's like, yeah, me too. So it's like that, faster pace or higher stakes, I guess, kind of office culture thing. So yeah. The cast for this movie?
The cast. Jay Baruchel as Mike Lazaridis.
Lazaridis. Mm-hmm.
Glenn Howerton as Jim Balsillie.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Johnson as Doug Freegan. Michael Ironside as Charles Purdy. Ben Petrie as Alan. Rich Sommer as Paul Stanos.
Mm-hmm.
Sungwon Cho as Richie. Saul Rubinek as John Woodman. Carrie Elwes as Carl Yankowski, and other various people.
Yeah, there's a lot of bodies in this movie. Some of them are specifically mentioned, or like I would say they're more in line of like key extras than like fully developed characters.
Yeah.
I mentioned Alan because of some production facts we'll get to later, but he's also one of the few people that is from like the beginning of the company to the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, then there's various people. I'm not sure if I mentioned specifically Rich Summer, Sungwon Cho, who their characters are, but those are the engineers that are talking about the $10 million stuff.
Mm.
Uh, and yeah, another Carrie Elwes movie. It's been back to back, I think, because of
Yeah.
Rebel Moon,
Yeah.
everyone's favorite.
He just shows up in everything.
Yeah, good for him. So the plot of this, I believe I took most of this from Wikipedia because it's like this is a very well documented movie when looking stuff up about it, and a lot of it is based on true events, so I just went with what they laid out.
Yeah.
So if there's specific scenes or anything you want to mention, then we can talk about that. So, in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, in 1996. Ever heard of it? Research in Motion, otherwise known as RIM, the CEO Mike Lazaridis and his best friend and co-founder Douglas Freegan prepare to pitch their PocketLink cellular device to businessman Jim Balsillie. Their pitch is unsuccessful, but after Balsillie is fired from his job due to aggressive ambition, he offers to invest $20,000 for 50% of the company and a position as CEO. Lazaridis, prompted by Freegan, initially declines Balsillie's offer, but after confirming Balsillie's suspicion that their $1.6 million deal with U.S. Robotics was in bad faith, they bring Balsillie in as a co-CEO with Lazaridis and sell him a 33% stake in RIM for $125,000. After joining RIM, Balsillie discovers that the company is in dire financial position, and he mortgages his house to add a cash infusion to make payroll. They pretty much establish right away that like Balsillie is he will screw over his coworkers if he feels like he's not able to shine and stuff, and
He's
then
not a good guy.
he's not a great dude. But he loves business.
Went to Harvard.
Yeah. Balsillie arranges a pitch for the Pocket Link with Bell Atlantic and forces Freegan and Lazaridis to build a crude prototype overnight, which he and Lazaridis take to New York. Lazaridis forgets the prototype in their taxi, leaving Balsillie to attempt the pitch alone. Lazaridis recovers the prototype at the last second and finishes the pitch, and they rebrand the Pocket Link as the BlackBerry, which becomes massively successful. This is like, they kind of set it up as maybe this is the first time that Balsillie is out of his element,
Yeah.
because he's like, Mike Lazaridis is very timid, kind of a pushover. Doug has to do a lot of like coaching with him to get him to like just be able to say like, "Hey guys, please get off the phone when I need to use the internet," because it's the 90s. And yeah, he or Balsillie is like trying to do the pitch himself. These tech business guys who know both sides are like, "You clearly don't know what you're talking about." And then Mike comes in and he's clearly good at what he does and then saves the pitch. So it's like they can work together. And also he had a BlackBerry stain on his shirt, so that's why it's called that. In 2003, Palm CEO Carl Yankowski plans a hostile takeover of the immensely successful RIM, forcing Balsillie to try to raise RIM's stock price by selling more phones than Bell Atlantic's, now Verizon Communications, network can support. This crashes the network, as Lazaridis had warned, so Balsillie poaches engineers from around the world to fix the problem, as well as hiring a man named Charles Purdy as RIM's COO to keep the engineers in line. Purdy's employment upsets Freegan, who values the casual and fun work environment he and Lazaridis had created. The new engineers fix a network issue under Purdy's strict management, and RIM avoids Yankowski's buyout. In 2007, RIM's upcoming pitch of the BlackBerry Bold to Verizon is thrown into chaos when Steve Jobs announces the iPhone. Balsillie, a hockey fan with long-term ambition of owning an NHL team, is occupied with trying to purchase the Pittsburgh Penguins, forcing Lazaridis to pitch the Bold with Freegan instead. When it goes poorly, he panics and impulsively promises them the Storm, a BlackBerry with a touchscreen. As he finally agrees with Purdy's suggestion to outsource the labor of the Storm to China, he insults Freegan during an argument. Freegan later quits RIM as a result.
Yeah. He pitches the Storm but he's basically saying it's a touchscreen with a keyboard in the touchscreen.
So I remember hearing about this
Yeah, I
of
did
like
too.
it because he kept saying like um basically at this point they've established that like Mike has developed an ego because he is the reason that smartphones caught on and became successful, which is fair. And then, Steve Jobs comes in with like this completely different uh look and design, and he's upset. And then he keeps holding on to the fact that like, no, the keyboard is good. Everyone likes the keyboard. So then he's like, what if the screen still has that satisfying keyboard click when you type on
Yeah.
it? And the Verizon people are like, okay, if it's a screen, then we'll take it because that's just what they were
Yeah.
looking for. And up until then, Mike is also like a perfectionist. There's an exchange that he has um, with Jim where he's like, if I'm gonna do the prototype, I'm gonna do it perfect or not at all. And he says that like the problem with mass production in China is that they're just trying to get like the quantity out, and there are a bunch of imperfections because of that. And he like keeps fixing like the intercom system because of that, because it keeps making like a little buzzing noise.
Yeah.
So he's like, I have to fix it. It's imperfect. And yeah,
I feel like they could make the phone now. The technology has advanced, and there's like soft glass materials.
the like liquid glass thing.
Well, not even that, but the foldable phones and
Oh,
stuff like.
yeah.
'Cause it feels like he basically just wanted to put a touchscreen over a keyboard,
Mm-hmm.
and I could see that working. Because I do feel like I still hear people who had keyboard phones
Mm-hmm.
be like, I wish we still had the keyboard. It was nice to have a physical thing to touch.
Yeah, I feel that way. Like with my phone, like I don't have like the physical home button anymore. And sometimes that
Yeah.
was like if it glitches or something, that's like the only way that you can fix it. And if
Yeah.
it's a touch screen, then yeah, you don't have that connection as much with the
Yeah.
buttons. So like I get it, but also like there's nothing that he could have pitched to
Yeah.
fight off the iPhone basically, unless it was like here's a screen with a full, or like a phone with a full screen, and then also like the slide out keyboard thing,
Yeah.
which I don't even know if like that would catch on now.
No, I mean, I remember touchscreen phones that had that
Yeah.
still, but no one really wanted that.
Mm-mm. Yep. Sorry, Mike. Um, yeah, so Doug quits RAM. Balsillie becomes nervous. Oh, we didn't talk about his hockey thing. It kind of came out of left field a little bit, which is like,
That he was trying to buy the hockey
yeah, just
team.
because the narrative jumps around in time. So it was like, they've always established that he is a hockey fan.
Yeah, he's watching it throughout the film.
Yeah. But then all of a sudden it was like, this hostile takeover thing happens. He fixes it. Um, the iPhone thing happens, and then like Mike basically has to handle the tech and the business side, which is why he's so stressed out in that meeting.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, Jim is trying to buy the Penguins and then secretly move them to Canada.
Hmm.
And then everyone else in the league is like, no. They deny him the sale specifically because they just don't like him. And then he says some really good thing where it was basically like the who do you think you are, I am.
We basically, when he went to the meeting and they're like, no, he was like, well, I'm gonna hostile take over you.
Yeah.
And
But there was something that he said along those lines where he was like, it was really dramatic and just like business guy yelling where
yeah,
just, I am bringer of death or something, which is it was very good. So Jim Balsillie becomes nervous when he sees the iPhone's projected sales and tries to arrange a meeting with AT&T CEO, only to learn that the Penguin sale is being finalized that same day. He prioritizes the Penguins, but is rejected when the NHL owners reveal knowledge of his plan to move the team to Hamilton, which they learned of through his boasting to Yankowski. The U.S. SEC raid RIM, or they, yeah, the SEC raid RIM after learning that Balsillie hired engineers in 2003 with illegally backdated stock options, which threatening Lazaridis with legal action. Balsillie misses his chance to meet with AT&T CEO, who snubs Balsillie by hinting over the phone that AT&T's partnership with Apple is predicated on the fact that data usage has superseded phone minutes as a priority. Balsillie returns to RIM to find that Lazaridis has exposed him to the SEC, leaving Lazaridis as the sole CEO of RIM. Does that make sense?
I mean, I saw it.
Yeah.
So. Government wanted Basili.
Yeah.
He hired people with the promise of backdated stock.
In order to get, so like when they were facing the hostile takeover from Yankowski, then they were like, we need to raise our stock. The way that we raise our stock is by selling more phones. The way that we can't sell more phones because it will overload the networks, but then they did it anyway with some other tech thing. But and they needed the engineers for that. But the way that they paid for those engineers was they didn't technically have the money for them, but Balsillie gave them contracts with backdated stock options. So essentially they were getting $10 million, even if like that wasn't their salary, like as a bonus or sign on or whatever. And then eventually the SEC, like there's some phone calls, like I think Doug is the first one to get a phone call from the SEC, and she's like, do you know anything about this? And he's like, no, like that's not anything that I'm in charge of. And she's like, well, you are listed here as a co-founder. And he's just like, haha, yeah. And then kind of hangs up.
Yeah.
And then I think he quits pretty soon after. And then they catch Mike at the RIM headquarters, and then he throws Jim under the bus because Jim was the one that did it. Yeah. So 1 year later, the storms arrive from China, but Lazaridis finds them to be laden with bugs and can hear buzzing when he holds one to his ear. As he begins manually fixing the buzzing phones one by one, the closing titles reveal that the storms were almost universally inoperable, and Verizon sued RIM to cover the financial loss. Lazaridis resigned as CEO in 2012, Balsillie avoided jail, and Freegan became one of the richest men in the world by selling his stock in 2007. At the height of its success, the BlackBerry phone made up 45% of the cell phone market and is now 0% in the present day, with BlackBerry phones no longer being produced.
Yep.
The end. So, things that stuck out. It's a good movie.
It's good.
Yeah. It obviously there's a lot of like tech and business things, but it does a good job of like making it digestible, and also, you know, I think the performances are good at like, even if you don't understand the specifics of like this deal or this engineering problem, you get the context of like this character good, this character angry, so and mean. Then I know that's like a super oversimplified way of doing it, but like everyone sells it really well, that it's still engaging.
Yeah.
There were a lot of aspects of the cinematography that made it feel like documentary or found footage style, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it really felt like at any point someone could have looked at the camera.
Yeah.
Like, it still looked intentional and good and everything, but there was just a lot of like quick zoom ins and zoom outs as things were happening, and like it felt like the camera was catching up to the action rather than completely like knowing what the action was going to be.
Right.
And it does make you feel it more personal with the story.
It definitely felt like this was all happening and a camera crew happened to be in the same room. And yeah, it was a lot of it was effective of like adding to the tension of everything, of just like, because I mean that's like a pretty standard thing anyway, of like you have a character who is unsettled or something, you're gonna shoot them on handheld, and if things are more steady, then you go to
Yeah.
like a steady shot and everything. I feel like the biggest change is Mike, from what I remember of like, it's a lot of like that found footage style stuff, but then the ending of him standing in the warehouse and like starting to fix all of the phones himself is like one big just
Yeah.
steady pull out of him, where it's not that he's like stable, it's more just like acceptance of this is the end.
Yeah.
So yeah. um Matt Johnson, who played Doug, directed this movie.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Uh,
and he it this style makes sense with a lot of his other movies that
Gotcha.
we'll get into in a little bit with production facts. Something that we talked about after immediately watching the movie was I wish that there was a more obvious evolution with Mike.
Yeah.
Um, so you have that at the beginning of he is very timid, like he's very like hunched over. He's just like a pretty, I would say, typical nerdy guy of, he doesn't, he is wearing clothes. He doesn't necessarily have a style, like that kind of thing. He's very soft spoken. Um, he clearly likes everyone that he's working with, but he's also not like everyone hesitates to say who's in charge. They're like, oh, Mike, but no one's like listening to him. Um, and then later on, because it like jumps through years of like significant moments for the company, then later on it's um him like basically just acknowledging that he's not forceful like that. So then they get the COO, like he's the one who a lot of the engineers were like, don't let him get into this department because he will make everyone's lives a living hell. And then Mike was like, well, actually, with the business, we need someone like that to get things
Yeah.
going. So he like outsources that. And then the next time you see him, then suddenly he's like a mini Jim almost of,
Suit, big gold watch,
yeah.
like nice clothes, super tall, slicked hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a big transformation. He's also like he's in charge of meetings, like he's saying like he's running things basically while Jim is gone trying to buy the
Yeah.
penguins and stuff. So I just wish that there was that middle jump, especially of like outsourcing to doing it himself. I wish there was another
Yeah.
scene of like seeing that besides him just being mean to Doug.
Yeah. Throughout, like, they definitely make sure to show that, like, Mike is the one that is on track the most from the beginning. Like, he's
Mhm.
the one who's just like, no, we have to actually do stuff. We can't just play video games. Like, he doesn't say that so confidently, but, like,
Mhm.
just by what he's doing,
Yeah.
he's always working while everyone else is playing video games.
They have movie nights a lot in the office,
And he
and
works
yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
So, like, they do that, but unless, like, they were trying to show that, like, it was a huge switch in real life, too, where it was
Mhm.
basically, like, one day Mike came in and had this confidence.
Yeah. I also noticed that after because they show the engineers watching the iPhone pitch, and then afterwards Mike starts wearing black turtlenecks too.
It's funny.
And I didn't know if that was another thing from real life or if they were just like
Yeah.
trying to show that he's like, no, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Uh yeah. Just an overall solid movie. Um yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else we want to point out?
The only thing, I guess, is just Glenn Howerton does a great job.
Oh, yeah.
It's
All the performance is great.
it's hard to not see him as Dennis from It's Always Sunny,
Mm-hmm.
just because he's so intense.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of Dennis is intensity, yelling, and most likely a sociopath. uh, but I think them baldening him probably helps.
Baldening is a good word for that. Yeah. I've basically just seen like one or two episodes of It's Always Sunny. Uh I'm not the target audience for it, but yeah, I like from the stuff that I have seen him in, then it's definitely like I agree it's not like completely out of left field or something.
Yeah.
It's not like casting Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad
Yeah.
kind of like weird casting, but it is an extension of that range of like, oh, that's cool that he can like commit to taking it so seriously for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jay Baruchel as Mike is also very good.
Yeah, but it's also not out of his range.
Right.
But still very good.
Except for Hiccup. Could not picture Hiccup doing that.
I guess. He kind of plays a dorky guy in most things.
That's true. I just can't see Hiccup
Sorcerer's Apprentice?
screwing over Doug like that. You could see the Sorcerer's Apprentice doing this.
Doesn't want to lose his magic.
Yeah. Production facts?
Production facts.
So this premiered at the Berlin International Film Festival on February 17th, 2023, before releasing in Canada May 12th, 2023. It had a US release in November 13th, also 2023. This is a Canadian movie. I know we basically just do US releases with some exceptions, but you know, this is just a big one that we heard about, so therefore we're doing an episode about it. It's got a 2-hour runtime. It's rated R. It has a 97% tomato meter with a 94% popcorn meter. 78 out of 100 from Metacritic, which is considered generally favorable, and then a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb. So pretty high overall. The Rotten Tomato consensus for both the critic and the audiences say it's riveting, intelligent, it's got sharp humor, there's a spectacular rise and fall. Just overall, everyone's pretty agreed. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's on several top 10 of the year lists in Canada. The Canadian critics specifically call it one of the best Canadian films ever made. And then the biggest criticism for the movie comes from business executives who had nothing to do with the film, who say that the film is overly critical of RIM's legacy and also the events are heavily fictionalized. I didn't look into the accuracy of that, of how much it is. The real-life Jim Balsillie says his depiction is almost entirely fictional, but he really liked Glenn Howerton's performance and called it brilliant. So even he was like, that's not me, but that guy did a good job.
That guy did a good job playing somebody else.
Some terrible dude.
Not this guy.
Yeah.
I didn't break the law, and the courts agreed.
I
So-
avoided jail time. Therefore.
And Glenn did a good job showing that.
Yeah. But, you know, overall, everyone praises this movie. It had a budget of $5 million.
Oh.
The financing came in chunks. The majority of it came from Telefilm Canada, which apparently the goal of that organization is to just promote Canadian-made productions. Canada is really big on if something is made in Canada, we are going to show it on Canadian TV. All of our resources are they're really good at internal promotion of productions. I don't know if there still is, but I know there used to be at least this rule of there is a percentage of Canadian TV that has to be made in Canada for them to air it, and then another percentage that can be international or US releases. So they support their own stuff.
That's good.
And Matt Johnson is familiar with working with low budgets, so they were very specific about no, this only cost $5 million. In terms of box office and streaming numbers, it made roughly $2.8 million worldwide at the box office. The majority of that came from Canada, some of it from the US. It was only in theaters for an average of 2.5 weeks, which, I mean, that's not the longest run time, so almost $3 million from that. Pretty good. And it seems like the movie did make money with the various distribution deals. It aired on Canadian TV and stuff, so they got, I'm pretty sure it at least broke even. Um, and then according to Just Watch, which tracks like streaming rankings, um, BlackBerry's highest ranking on the streaming charts was number one. I'm not sure for when or how long it was there. It was also in the global top 100 of films streamed for almost a full year. So a lot of people watched this movie, and then a lot of people liked the movie. The production timeline is pretty straightforward. From June through August 2022, principal photography takes place in various Canadian cities. They also shot some stuff at the London airport with like the private jets and things like that. And then February 2023, IFC Films acquires the rights to the US distribution of the movie at the Berlin International Film Festival. May 2023, the film was released in Canada. January 2024, there's a 35mm print version of the film that was screened at the Toronto International Film Festival's Canada's Top 10 event. It was the closing film of the event. And then the print version was later shown in some US cities as well. So yeah, pretty straightforward. It's got a lot of awards and nominations listed on IMDb. It's 28 wins and 31 nominations total. At the Berlin International Film Festival where it premiered, it was a 2023 nominee for Best Film. That's the Golden Bear Award. At the Gotham Awards, it was a 2023 nominee for Outstanding Supporting Performance for Glenn Howerton. The Film Independent Spirit Awards, 2024 nominee for Best Supporting Performance for Glenn Howerton. Toronto and Vancouver Film Critics Association Awards, it won for Best Canadian Film 2023 and 2024. It also won for Best Director, Screenplay, Lead and Supporting Male Actor. It won big in a lot of various Canadian film festivals and critics circles. The San Francisco International Film Festival gave it the 2023 winner for the Sloan Science on Screen Award, which I was like, I guess so. it's tech.
They talk about tech and bandwidths.
Yeah, it's the T in STEM. It is also the most nominated film in the history of the Canadian Screen Awards with 17 nominations. It won 14 of them, including Best Picture, Best Direction, Best Lead Actor, Best Supporting Actor. Matt Johnson was also nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and he lost to his own movie, so good for him. The tagline for this movie is "Rule the world with 1 minute at a time."
That's good.
It is pretty solid. Like I've mentioned, it was directed and written by Matt Johnson. Jacqueline McNish and Sean Silkoff also have writing credits. They are the co-authors of the book Losing the Signal, The Untold Story Behind the Extraordinary Rise and Spectacular Fall of BlackBerry. Wikipedia says the film is loosely based on the book, so I think it was more of a event inspiration and they took the characters from there. The producers who had the rights to the book apparently approached Matt Johnson and his writing/producing partner, Matthew Miller. BlackBerry is their first time working with adapted material. Everything else they've pretty much originated themselves. They secretly interviewed former employees of BlackBerry. They used diaries from various points in the company's history. The production designer made a show Bible for the characters' looks based on 2,500 photos from former employees. So, like, loosely based on, but also deeply accurate in a lot of ways. So Matt Johnson, his breakout was 2013's The Dirties, which is a found footage movie about a young filmmaker who turns into a school shooter. He made the film for $10,000. It won Slamdance, which, if you don't know, is like the other big festival that started in response to Sundance being like too exclusive. And then from that, then he got distribution support from Kevin Smith, big independent filmmaker. He then made 2016's Operation Avalanche about the CIA making a fake moon landing movie, which is also found footage, which I want to watch now.
I know what you're talking about.
And then he also created the web series Nirvana, the Band, the Show, working with the same team as this film, including Ben Petrie, who played Alan, one of the original engineers. So he works with the same people over and over again. There was also for this movie a mini-series released on Canadian TV. It had 3 episodes, which included an additional 16 minutes of footage that aren't in the film. It also aired on AMC in the US and was later on their streaming service, so I don't know if it's still available, but that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then Matt Johnson specifically said Silicon Valley was not an inspiration for this movie. In a segment with IndieWire, there's an article that says, in other words, nothing like the goofballs on Silicon Valley, a show he knew would come up as a comparison early on. Those guys are very clearly trying to be funny and very proud of themselves for it. He said, that's revolting to me, and it wasn't influential in terms of how we did this. Instead, he turned to more serious precedents, looking at All the President's Men, as well as a D.A. Pennebaker and Chris Hegedus's 1993 Bill Clinton campaign documentary, The War Room, to determine the approach. They had a lot of scenes with men in rooms trying to change the world, Johnson said. We didn't want to Hollywoodize it and make these guys seem like Elon Musk. They had to be like LAN party nerds who, by happenstance, wind up changing the world and not even realizing they did it. So, another, like, found footage documentary inspiration.
Yeah.
Just, I know you like Silicon Valley, so it's just very,
It's a good show.
thought it was funny that he was like, absolutely not.
Outside of these both having to do with tech,
Mhm.
not once did I think.
I didn't expect Silicon Valley comparison. I get like the Social Network and
Yeah.
Jobs, and 'cause I mentioned both of those earlier.
I can get those, but
Yeah.
nothing like Silicon Valley.
No,
Not.
no, but I guess maybe other people have, or it's one of the big like.
You have nerd working on movie or working
Exactly.
on tech that becomes success.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's not a hairpiece. Glenn Howerton shaved his head for the movie. To Entertainment Weekly, he said, "It's funny. I didn't realize how much of my identity was wrapped up in the fact that I've always had a full head of hair until I shaved it all off. It stripped me of a very part of my identity in a way that I hadn't anticipated and was very, very helpful. It instantly aged me. Even though I'm in my mid-40s, I still feel like a guy in his 20s. But once I was in a Harry Rosen suit and was bald, all of a sudden I felt like a completely different person, and it put me in a completely different place." He ended up really liking it, and at one point told Matt Johnson, "I look better like this."
Yeah, I mean it ages him up for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if the hair color is. I don't think that's his natural hair
I don't
color.
think so.
He's
That
not
looked
that.
lighter.
Yeah, he's not that gray.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, also as the movie, like, the time jumps happen, then they made him
Yeah.
more gray. But yeah, thought that was very funny that you have such a big transformation from balding.
Before we go on, I wanted to say that Mike and Doug are still friends.
The real life Mike and Doug.
The real life Mike and Doug are still
Yeah.
friends. They've been friends since grade 5.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually have an Oscar and I think a Golden Globe or something because they
Right.
built this technology that basically scans film like a barcode.
Mm-hmm.
And so they won Tech Oscar and other award for that.
Yeah.
And now they have another company that it basically seems like a tech funding company.
It's like an investment firm or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're doing fine.
Yeah. Because you don't see that resolution with them. It's just Mike alone, and then Doug having a movie night at his house,
Yeah.
and then the screen saying he's secretly one of the richest men in the world.
Doug also loves cars and often races in celebrity race events.
Good for Doug. Yeah. So yeah, that's all I got. If we want to rate the movie.
Yeah. We rate movies out of 4 with 5 options. 0 out of 4 is, oh no, Apple's gonna take us out. 1 is, it was a movie.
Mm-hmm.
2 is well made or enjoyable. 3 is enjoyable and technically good. 4 is Oscar worthy. I gave it a 3. I think it's a real high 3, but it wasn't quite to that 4 level to me, and I think a big reason is because of like not seeing why Mike fully switches and just
I also gave it a 3. I think it'd be interesting to see like what are those extra 16 minutes that's in that miniseries. Yeah, it's a really solid movie. I think it's just like shockingly, it's a very subjective scale, so it feels like a very subjective 3 of like basically just the movie did a really solid job of making this subject matter compelling to me. Uh, and I think like otherwise I wouldn't really care about it and stuff. So it's just like after watching it, it's like, yeah, that was really good. I know this isn't gonna like stick with me besides like the movie aspects of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, enjoyed it a lot. It's definitely one of the stronger like product biopics
Yeah.
that we've seen for sure. And I think just in general of the 2023 group.
Yeah. One thing this movie didn't do was show any of their families.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of them have like wedding rings and
Yeah.
things. So it's like, okay, so they do have a family.
Yeah.
Never see them. They never talk about them.
Yeah.
There's like maybe 3 women in this entire film.
Yeah, it's a boy movie.
But like, it's of the time.
It's of the time. It also didn't bother me that this movie doesn't pass the Bechdel test
No.
because like you say with the other movies, like that's not the point of it, and
Yeah.
like every movie doesn't need to do that. And I agree. And also a big aspect of this, especially as the company gets bigger and bigger and it's clear that like they're kind of out of their depth in terms of organization, then they keep mentioning that people are doing like 60, 80-hour work weeks and like barely seeing their families. So why would we see them too if it is that like found footage style? Like
Yeah.
they're not gonna go home with the you're not gonna humanize the engineers.
Yeah.
They're just there to work.
Well, we like to talk about other movies that we've seen. We went and saw Fantastic Four First Steps
We did.
in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
It was good.
Yeah.
I liked it. It was
Mm-hmm.
a solid movie. It was a solid Marvel movie. That's kind of all I felt.
Yeah. Um, I have been more on the cusp of the superhero fatigue than I think you have for sure. Um, of just like there's some I'm not gonna like see a superhero movie just to see a superhero movie. I would like to care about the characters or something
Mhm.
in some way. So I really liked the fact that like this is the most unconnected to anything else. Like you don't have to go in having already seen 20 other movies to
Mhm.
understand the context for everything.
Yeah.
Um, and then I feel like that was a good, hopefully intentional move because then it just like lets you engage with these characters a lot more.
Yeah.
They do a really good job of showcasing all of the 4 characters, and
Yeah.
so um yeah. I also like if they do a reboot or something. It's the same thing what they did with Tom Holland's Spider-Man of just like you yada yada over the like
The backstory.
I have powers. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like yeah, we know. Let's get to the point
Yeah.
where you know you have powers and you're pretty competent with them. So, it's
Yeah.
very smart like that.
I also feel like right now with the fatigue, it's specifically MCU fatigue.
Yeah.
Cause like Superman was great.
Mhm.
And I haven't really heard people being like, I'm too fatigued to like Superman.
Mhm.
And I think Marvel has lost what made it good in the first few years of truly telling the character stories.
Mhm.
And so I felt like this one was a nice little change of pace of no, it's about the characters.
Yeah. Yeah, there are definitely some posts that I saw of people saying like uh it's not that there's superhero fatigue, it's that there aren't like compelling characters. And it's just like
Yeah.
look what happens when you make a good movie and then people come back to theaters
Yeah.
and they've both been massively successful. I know Fantastic Four had a drop off with the box office
I mean,
and
it's
stuff.
still doing great compared
Yeah.
to other movies, but it had a huge drop off for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep. So 3 out of 4 for BlackBerry. We
Yeah.
watched Fantastic Four First Steps. Our next episode is our 2-year anniversary.
Mhm.
Doing this podcast for 2 years. Leave questions and comments, and we'll respond on our other podcast, Virtual House Sessions. But otherwise, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.